minutes to do intel, but I'll go over. That's okay. Thank you, Bob. I appreciate that. Uh, okay, guys, let's get into where we are. Boy, today was one of those days when intel just kept coming in, coming in, as things were coming together for us. And there are two major issues, two main things that happened today that are big time important for us. So I'll try to go back and address these in detail, but I wanted tonight to be sort of a review call. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some of this intel, and then I'm going to review for you some of the things that maybe we all need a little refresher on. Okay, in terms of the procedures, the protocols, in terms of going forth through the exchange process. I'm not going to drag it out. I'll try to do it kind of boom, 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 one thing at a time. But we may have some new people on the big call. We may have people that have come back to the call and haven't heard what's going on for a while. Whichever it is, I'll try to give you a little refresher. All right? Before we go into that, I want everybody to realize that we're in a situation. You remember on Tuesday, President Trump had given Iraq, through Abadi, a 48-hour period to get everything done that Iraq needed to do. Now, they got that done within about an hour or so of the 48-hour window. So they did comply with what the president asked them to do. Okay? And then we find that, okay, where are we? And you know what I'm saying, guys. There's always seemingly something that is yet to be done or completed or whatever. But things are definitely moving in the right direction. I believe I told you guys, I know I did now, about all of the money moving from the Treasury to the Tier 1 banks and even filtering down to Tier 2 banks. Remember me telling you that on Thursday, no, check that, on Sunday at 5 p.m., we had tranches going to all 5 Tier 1 banks, a total of $250 quadrillion every hour on the hour for the next 8 days. This was a way to begin really super hydrating the banks with liquidity for our exchanges and for our ZIM redemption. Okay, because ZIM, why do you say redemption? What do you mean? ZIM redemption, because the ZIM notes that we have are bonds that are backed by gold and that are redeemable. That's what we're going to do, is redeem those. The other currency we will exchange. Okay? So, I make a slight distinction between those two. Now, here's the other part that's interesting about Iraq. So we're finding out yesterday afternoon that there's an individual who's super wealthy out of Jordan, and he has I'm going to call it a money services business, MSB, that is based in Iraq. And this was being used to funnel monies through this operation. I'm not going to put any other countries out there, but it was to fund ISIS, to fund terrorism. Now, I don't normally get into this type of stuff with you guys. All I'm going to tell you is it appears that this was a major issue that needed to be solved before we went, before Iraq did their thing and changed their rate, revalued their dinar, and put it out where people could see it, where it was internationally known. Now, since then, I believe they've handled that with the freezing of accounts and that type of thing, and I believe they've got certain operations that have helped to relieve that situation. since then. And those had wrapped up, I believe we're going to wrap up around 5 or 6 o'clock Eastern time today. So it's a very recent event that needed to be handled. And thank goodness it was a multi-country effort, collateral effort to get that done, and it was. Now, the other thing that is major news today is the impact that Neil Keenan has had on the world's management of gold. And this is an individual, I'm going to try to paraphrase it the best I can for you. This individual is also known now as M1. He's like the man when it comes to the gold supply around the world. Okay? He is situated with essentially managing, if you will, the world's gold. The gold that's in Indonesia, which is absolutely amazing, both from all these Southeastern Asian countries. Realistically, guys, we are talking about King Solomon's gold. And that gold, and it's way more than we've ever been led to believe exists on this earth. Not even close to what we think we know. There's so much wealth. That gold is what's used to back up these currencies, and to back these exchanges, and to back all the new gold-backed money that is coming out. Now, what Neil did was at 4 a.m. in the morning Eastern time overnight was he signed off all the paperwork that gave him the responsibility to take over, if you will, as trustee of all these gold assets. And then today at 3:08 and 19 seconds, he did a call, an announcement. It's not a call. He did an announcement that explained sort of what he was doing and what it was and what it meant for us and for the world and the asset-backed currencies. Now, when he did that, essentially what happened was, all right, let me back up 1 second. Before at the time of his announcement, 3:08 p.m., 19 seconds Eastern time today, 80% of the gold had been repatriated to the various countries where it belonged. Some of it had been hidden, some had been stolen, some had been lost, quote unquote, all of that. We were at 80% back in place. The remaining 20%, Neil was in charge of repatriating to the proper countries. And he was to do that in the next 6 hours, which would take us up until, I would say about the time of this call now. So somewhere in this time frame between now and midnight, those gold stores should be repatriated and back in place. The gold is there to back the currencies of those 6 currencies that we have, and this is including the Zim bonds also, that will be in the first offering. So they are all now completely asset-backed. Our U.S. dollar is also now gold-backed, and we call it the USTN, the United States Treasury Note. Now, very few people call it that. Most call it USN. I've been told a new term that I've used on this call is United States Treasury Note, USTN. Now, there are some other things that have happened to solidify the banking system and make it more transparent take a certain organization that we've all heard of out of the loop. You guys know what I'm talking about if you've paid attention. And it's really, how can I say this? Things that have needed to happen in order are happening in that order now. What Neil Keaton did on his announcement today happened at the proper time. What you and I don't see is the big picture. We see pieces of the picture. We see pieces of the puzzle, but we don't see that 1,000-piece puzzle all at once as a picture. We see pieces, and we try to see the whole puzzle the best we can. It's difficult, but we do the best we can, and we try to piece the pieces that you don't know about. I try to bring to you on this call. All right, now, we heard that as a result of what Neil Keaton did with his announcement today, that real monies, that's real money, which I take to mean real gold-backed USTN money, started flowing out of Big R out west today at approximately 2:30 Eastern Daylight Time. That would have been before lunchtime out west. Okay? That started happening, and I think that's a very good sign. So, some things were definitely triggered by what happened with the signing of these gold agreements last night and today during this announcement. Now, there were supposed to be 2 or maybe 3 announcements that we might find out about tonight. I don't know if we have yet. If they're not crucial, with HSBC contacting the banks, giving them an update on what the go time is. I'm going to tell you that we are, according to what we're hearing, we are very close. Let's talk about rates. Rates were back up on the screens at 12:08 p.m. and 12:10 p.m. on another bank, and 12:18 p.m. on another bank, and 12:28 p.m. on another bank. So you say, well, why didn't they all come up at the same time? They were staggered on purpose as each one of those major bank institutions were being synced with the QFS system, with the new rates. They were there solid on this front screens for as long as 34 minutes, the longest. And then they went to flashing. The rates went to flashing, which means further adjustment, further increase, movement in the rates themselves. I don't know exactly what they are right now. I have an idea what they might be, but I can tell you that they're moving in the right direction for us. You shouldn't even be thinking about rates. You shouldn't even be concerned about them, because they're going to be exactly even higher than we thought they would be. And they're really good. They're really, really good. So don't sweat the rates. Now, so things are happening behind the scenes in other countries too. And happening because there's a certain amount of cleanup on aisle 3 that still needs to be done, but is being done in a very methodical way, but in a very efficient way to get some things cleaned out. And it's all for our benefit. So this extra weight, if you will, it's going to be worth it for us. Now, so we had those 2 major things that had to be dealt with today, and they're both very important, very good. And then we've got major activity that got started out west. We've got rates showing up on bank screens, on the front screens, then continuing to flash, flicker, and be intermittent, maybe intermittently come up, and then go back to flashing. That's kind of the mode we're in now. And we've got the feeling, or actually the statement, that this is to be, and I'm talking about me being notified. Me being notified to put the number out for the Tier 4 Group B, if you will, the Internet group. I'm being told this will be a daytime event. And I've even been told more than daytime event, a morning event. So, I think that means that if something were to happen at midnight or 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning, more than likely they would contact me at a more reasonable time in the morning than 3 or 4 in the morning. Okay? Because they realize everybody's asleep, or trying to be, and they realize there's probably an optimal time to bring this out. The other thing that's important about this, that may play into this, is that the banks in Hawaii are supposed to be closed for the GCR to reach our shores. And that means midnight on the East Coast is when Hawaiian banks close. That tells me anything could happen after midnight. Makes me think of the Eric Clapton song, After Midnight. So, really, that's about as close as I can tell you that we are to this happening. There is, tentatively, I think, a time that they're looking to bring this out. And they may be waiting for all the banks across this country to be open, which would include California. Okay? And you got to realize that's 9 a.m. in the morning. So they may wait for that to occur so that everybody gets a kind of a fair start. That's just an opinion of mine. That's my opinion. It may be the case. It may not be. We'll see. Okay? Just a heads up. Now, let's talk a little bit about in the review. Here's some of the basic stuff you guys have heard for years, but maybe need a refresher on. First of all, put all your currency to where you have each of your currencies together. Don't come in there with a paper bag with a bunch of notes in it. Don't even think about it. You go in as a professional with a case or a briefcase or something with your notes in it, in order, counted, where you know how much you have. I would go in, and I will go in, with the totals of all my notes, each currency designated with a total in that currency, so that I have 2 printed copies of it, and they have 1 printed copy that I can give to them. 1 for me, 1 for my attorney, 1 for them. Okay, we've got that. And that is so that I know what they have when I hand it over. They know what I say I have when I hand it over. Okay? There won't be any discrepancy. You think you've got so much, and they run it through that machine, and it comes up different, or whatever, off whatever. This way, you've counted it the best you could. They'll count it professionally with the proper machine. And they'll probably run it once or twice to make sure their totals are right. Okay? So that'll be a step of the process. It's about a 6 or 7 step process when you go into the redemption center or exchange location. Okay? Number 1, you're going to need to identify yourself. You're going to need a driver's license or other forms of picture ID. Passport would be good. Sam's card. Whatever you've got, student ID, government ID, something. If you've got 2 picture IDs, it's probably better than 1. You go in with that. You go in with a utility bill, fairly recent, in your name, that shows where you live. It shows a physical address, so they know you're a real person. You're in the process of establishing yourself under the Know Your Customer rules. KYC, Know Your Customer. Okay? So you want to do that. That's the initial phase. They're going to have a lot of that. If you're a Zim holder, they already know who you are. Unless you're a gifted person. If you're gifted, then they don't know who you are. But when you call to set your appointment, when you get that toll-free number that we put out, whether you get it by email from Bob in a mass email, or whether you get it from the BigCall.net website, or you get it from our new site, which is BigCallUniverse.com, or whether I happen to put it out on another site in the community. Okay? Wherever it is that you find it, when you call, each state has their own call center. But I will have what they call the Universal 800 number. That's the one number for the United States, okay, that you will dial, and that will trigger and connect you to one of these call centers in the various states. But when you call and you tell them, they say, hello, so-and-so, what currencies do you have? You let them know first you have Zim bonds, Zimbabwe bonds, and then after that, tell them that you have, Iraqi dinar, Vietnamese dong, and so on and so on, any other currencies of the six, which may, I'm going to say may because I've heard it is true, it may also include the Iranian rial. Now, that's kind of a late entry into the first offering. So keep that in mind. If you have it, bring it. If you don't worry about it. Now, here's what you do. So you've identified who you are. They know if you're a Zim holder, and you tell them, yes, I've got Zim. They are already starting to run you down based on the information that you've given. You don't give them your Social Security number on the phone or any of that noise. Okay? But you give them just enough basic information on the phone where they start doing your background check. They're doing your check. They've done a lot of background checks on a lot of people already that haven't even gone in yet. So they're going to be tracking you, if you're a Zim holder, for sure, from your house to the redemption center with GPS. All right? So they're going to be tracking you, make sure you get there, nobody monkeys with you, you get there, everything's cool, you're secure, you're safe, they bring you in, boom, there you go. You get started. By the way, remember to smile. I have to remind myself of that. Remember to smile and look them in the eye. Look the people in the eye. Make connection. Make contact with them visually. Don't look down and hands in pockets. None of that stuff. This is your gig. This is it. This is the big time. You're going to come in smiling, happy, and content, and centered, and ready to give them what it is they want to know. So you make it from that position to the currency verification point. They may be talking rates at this point. I don't know whether we're talking rates yet, but they are going to be looking to verify and count each of your currencies. Okay? They do that. In my way of thinking, they go from that to the rate table. And you literally may be you may be sitting at one table when you get there, or a desk, and they may change the people that come to you so that you stay put, and then another person comes maybe and helps you with the identification of currency, and the next one is with the rates that you're looking for. You guys know there's a front screen rate, so-called teller screens, front screens, and then there's a back screen rate. Some call it gray screen rate. Those back screen rates are important if you are looking to do something humanitarian-wise, humanitarian projects. Now, you guys know we have two major humanitarian projects. We have Rebuild America, and we have the Veterans Retreat Network to help our veterans. Those two will actually dovetail and cross over. Rebuild America and VRN. Now, I'm going to ask you on your Rebuild America, this was a program I came up with that would allow you to do in your cities, towns, or communities the same thing that many of us will do in other parts of this country. I want 5,000 people minimum that are listeners to the big call. If you're interested, if you don't care, then don't do it. Believe me, we'll do it without you. But if you want to be part of something greater than yourself, and you want to create a legacy for yourself, then what you would do is participate by saying, yeah, Bruce, I know you want Wilmington, North Carolina, because you used to, hang out there and all that, and blah, 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 but I'm going to take this town, this city, this community. I'll take that one. I'll help rebuild that. It doesn't have to be because it was devastated from a hurricane. Okay? It doesn't have to be that. It could be a situation like Baltimore. It could be a situation like Akron, Ohio. It could be any place, you name it, in the Rust Belt. There are all kinds of places all over this country that can use some help. And so what we're going to do is try to rebuild. Now, I've been told we don't have to worry about rebuilding infrastructure in terms of roads and bridges, and maybe not internet, cabling. Although, let me stop here and say, Mr. President, President Trump and administration who listen to the big call, have you guys thought much about recabling like we're doing in Puerto Rico, like we're going to do on some of the other islands that were wiped out by Hurricane Maria? Have you thought long and hard about insulated cabling that goes underground for electric, for phone, for internet, that has a Kevlar-type shielding that would actually prevent EMPs from messing with those wires, that would not fry those? And I know it's out there, I know it exists, and I know we can use it. It's very strong, and it would be a great way to do underground cabling everywhere. Everywhere. Yeah, I know it's going to take time. We got time. We might not have too much time, but let's get it. In case there is a solar flash or some kind of thing that would set off an EMP. Can we not be proactive for once in this country? Like President Trump is doing? Proactively doing things? He's doing what he said he'd do, and more. Let's kind of jump on that bandwagon. Let's do some of that. Let's get proactive. Let's make some changes while we have it and while we have the resources and the time to do it. Okay, I'm going to get off the soapbox. Now, once you're in that redemption center, you're going through these various stages, you're going to get to the point where you are negotiating your rates. This is where, listen guys, the rates are so good on the front screens, you don't have to negotiate a thing. But if you want, you have that ability. Our group, our internet group, is the group that's been told that they will get the highest rates. Period. End of story. And I think it's because they know that we are informed. They know that I've been trying to get information out there about projects and humanitarian projects, and that we've got a big one called Rebuild America, and we're not going to stop with the U.S. We're starting with the U.S., and then we're going beyond that into the other countries, probably into the Caribbean, into Central America, South America, Mexico, okay, and then over, all kinds. I mean, you guys know you have a heart for other countries. We'll rebuild them. We'll rebuild housing. The main thing that President Trump wants us to do, guys, on the big call is rebuild residential housing. We're going to do schools, additions to schools, recreation centers, clinics. We can do a lot of stuff. I'm going to do stuff like community gardens and food domes. Look that one up. Food domes. We're going to do those. And I tell you what, guys, if you want to do something like that, you want to negotiate a little higher rate, you can tell them, yes, I'm joining in with the group from the Big Call, and I'm going to try to ask for 5,000 people so that we could make a difference in all 50 states, and an average, this is only an average, of 100 cities, towns, or communities per state. I think if we got that, we could make 100 per state. We'd make a pretty big dent in the rebuild of America. I think we'd make a pretty big dent. Look, we could have less than 5,000. We could have more than 5,000. This is the kind of thing that will catch fire. It will. I know it is. I'm not looking for it to come out tomorrow. I'm not looking to start with this, like next week. We have planning to do. We've got a lot that we're working on already, but we've got more to do. And you guys that want to be part of it, just stay tuned to us. Make sure you're registered with your email. Go to the new website, bigcalluniverse.com, and register. That's all you got to do. And then we will be in touch with you by email to let you know when we're going to do a podcast, when we're going to get together with the information that you're looking for. I'm going to try to create literally step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 type template. It's like, oh, I see. This is how we do it. Bruce says, let's do this first, then let's do that, then we'll do that. It'll all be laid out, and it'll be as easy as we can make it. I'm not going to try to make it complicated. I'm going to try to make it easy. And we're all working together corporately, but you're doing your thing in your city or town or community. You see? And Bob's doing his thing in his city, town, or community that he chooses. You see? And everybody's doing this, so corporately we're making a huge difference, but we're all doing it on our own with our own blessing money. I'm not asking for your money. I don't want your money. I'm not doing it that way. I'm going to do it with my money. You do it with your money. See? That's how it's going to work. And it's only if you want to, guys. It'll get done. God will call up the people to complete a project if you say, well, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be part of that. I don't know anything about it. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever you want to say. Listen, God will raise up the people, men and women, who will take this cause on. And I'm excited about it. You guys know I didn't come up with the idea. God gave me the idea to come up with. I think it works. I think it works. I think it's going to be so much fun to get all this started. And it doesn't mean I'm going to be out there pouring concrete or pounding nails, guys, or running wire. I'm not going to be doing any of that. I'm way, way behind the scenes. But we will have appointed people as leadership teams who will hire the people, who will get the people to build and rebuild America. Okay? In other words, it's a process, but you're, in my opinion, like me, if you want to be like this, you're behind the scenes. You're sort of calling the shots initially and then watching it go. You call the shots. Maybe you're involved with it a little bit more than I'm going to be on a day-to-day basis. Okay? But you just set this thing in motion and just tweak it here and there with a phone call, with a visit, whatever it is. Okay? And I'll be traveling, I'll be visiting, I'll be going around the country looking at things and getting the VRN sites up and running and being part of that. I mean, it'll be fun. That's what I'm going to do. So, that's all you need to know as far as projects. Now, as far as everything else, you're going to be setting up your accounts with one or more banks that are at your redemption center. You're going to have a temporary debit card, at least one, from the main bank that you choose to do your redemption with. you'll be able to get up to $15,000 in cash. Okay? And you don't have to take that much. And yes, anything $10,000 or more should throw a FinCEN form out to IRS, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I mean, they certainly know about this. It's not a secret. They're not money laundering or doing anything like that. You're just getting cash that's available to you at the time of your exchange. If you want $15,000, you can ask for it. If you want $5,000, ask for it. If you want no cash, don't ask for it. It's up to you. It's a choice. Okay? Now, they will be putting money on your temporary debit card, and then you'll be getting a permanent card. I'm going to call it like a black card. Doesn't mean it has to be a black card, because I think that's kind of a giveaway. I wouldn't do the black card personally. I'd go with a platinum card, something, or a gold card, something that's a little more typical. That doesn't give you away, okay, for having a black card. Okay, but what you want to do is, I can't remember where I was. Okay, so you want to choose one, and then choose how much you want to have initially in the first day put on your card. Now, my understanding is you should have access to quite a bit more money in the first day or two after you get started. And then whatever your permanent card is, whether it's a Wells Fargo, American Express type card, okay, or another premium type card on another bank, that could be sent to you overnight, and you get it probably in 2 days. You probably get your 2-day permanent credit/debit card. Now, my thinking, guys, is don't use a debit card that's tied to a Motherlode account. Okay? You want to have, if you're going to use a debit card at all, make sure it's tied to an account, maybe has a limit of $5,000 or $10,000. You know, just for everyday grocery shopping or running out and picking something up, you might want to throw a debit card out. But otherwise, this is one of those situations where a credit card may make the most sense. Because it's not like you don't have the money. You've got the money to pay for it. But now you've got the ability to use a credit card. You've got some securities built in on a credit card. And you also have, well, I just remember with American Express, they had a great, and all the cards really have this, especially when you get to a premium level. You know, you have the accounting for everything that you've purchased that's categorized and makes it real easy for tax purposes to run your totals or give it to your CPA and let them run all the totals for anything that's truly legally deductible for your taxes. So I always liked doing that. It made it much easier. Now, it's going to be up to you, you know, but whatever you do, that's going to be the time to do that. And then you'll figure out if you have any bank wires that you want done. You can do a few of those. If you need cashier's checks, it's up to you. I'm not going to do any cashier's checks, but if you want to, you can have cashier's checks drawn up to 15 of them drawn. Make sure you have everything typed out. If you're going to use a cashier's check, or an official bank check, make sure you have everything typed out on to whom it's to be paid and the amount, so that you clearly can get that done. Same thing with bank wire information. Make sure you have that information clearly typed out for the bank name and the ABA routing number and account number. Okay, so that so that when you do a wire, I've had a wire go out and it was to purchase currency, you know, and it got bounced back to my bank because the guy missed it. He missed the number. I won. He missed the number and didn't enter it properly. So make sure it's typed out, and don't put it in a tiny font, you know. Put it in at least a 12 font or a 12 font so they can see, read it clearly. All right? So have that type of stuff ready. Now, you're also going to maybe want 2 other letters. You're going to want on bank letterhead a letter that states from the bank, from the banker, the main bank, the guy that has your mother lode account, whether it's HSBC or Wells or Chase or whatever it is, okay, make sure you have a letter that is letting you know that these funds that you're using are free and clear and free of any non-criminal action. Did I say that right? And of non-criminal origin is what I meant. Erase, pink roses. Okay? Okay? Free and clear and of non-criminal origin. You also may want to get a letter that that shows any potential realtor that you have the funds to purchase the house. Okay? Just sort of a proof of funds letter. That's what it's called. Proof of funds letter. And that you'd have that available so that anybody that you're going to buy a house from, and you're going to probably pay cash for your homes. I would not personally finance a home. I don't think we need to, not with the numbers we're talking about. And you're not showing off, but you're just saying, this letter that comes from your bank indicates that you have the wherewithal to pay for this house, and you may want to put a number in there. Let's say you're going to buy a $3 million home, and you may want to have a limit of $5 million on the letter. This client of ours is able to purchase a home, up to $5 million, whatever. Make it whatever it is you're comfortable with. Okay? So that way you've got a number of these letters. If you're going to buy more than one property, you've got a number of these letters, and maybe they're a little bit different because the amounts could be different. Or the bank that they're drawn on could be different. But that way you can ask that to be done, and that doesn't have to be done on day one necessarily, but it could be, possibly. At least if you don't get it day one, you can at least put the idea out there. Hey, this is what I'd like. I'd like to get this, and then make the 5 or 10 original copies, signed copies. So you'd have those to give to people if you're interested in buying land or a ranch or an island or whatever you're going to buy. Okay? Or an island, right? Okay, so you've gone through that process. You've gone through pretty much. You've done the financial aspect. You've got the rates done. Now it comes down to perks, what are called benefits, bennies, perks. And this is what the bank feels like they want to give you to be a customer of theirs. And all the banks have about a page and a half to a 2-page letter of perks that they're offering. The more you have on deposit, the greater the perks should be. Does it matter when you're a gazillionaire to get free perks? Not really. But we all sometimes like to get something for nothing. So take a look at it, see if there's anything on there that you really love, and then find out, hey, if I get this, am I paying taxes on this? Do I have to pay taxes on this that you're giving me? Find out if it's worth it to you. Find out. Now, the other thing is, 2 things. The banks, because they've sort of, let's just say it this way, taken their sweet time to get this whole thing done, the exchange fee that banks are to charge, and this is not the fee that we would be charged, by the way. This is a fee that would come off the back end of the exchange that I believe the Chinese elders would pick up, so to speak. Used to be 1.5%. It's got cut back last week to 0.5%. That's half of a percent. Now, there was some chatter about that. There was some disgruntled banks about that, but I think they got that squared away where everybody is good with it. They may not be happy, but they're good with it. And even at 0.5%, the banks are going to do very, very well. Don't you worry your pretty little head nut. Okay? Now, the other thing is, okay, so we have the 0.5% fee. see. Gosh, I know there was one other thing I wanted to mention to you guys. I guess it wasn't that big a deal, or I'd still remember it, right? I think we're just at the point, guys, where you know more than you think you know. If you've listened to the big call for more than a year, last couple of years, even as many as 7 years, like some of you guys have stuck with it for all this time, you know a lot. You can be confident. You can go in centered and confident and happy. You can go in happy. Yes, it's going to be a little bit, you might be a little bit nervous. You might be a little bit shaky, but that's a good thing. It's like going before a performance or before a big game. You might have some butterflies. That's okay. That's natural. That's normal. Realize that that's part of the process. That's okay. Okay? That's part of being excited. And that's all cool. Just realize that you should be safe. You should be safe. We talked about security a little bit on the big call. We've talked about getting in touch with Deb at privacyabroad.com to look into that security for encrypting your phones and your iPads and your and your PCs and your laptops. Okay, you can do all that in your phones. Okay, you can check into all that. That's important. You need to do that. I think if you're on social media, you should just really think twice about whether you want to stay on it or limit how you do it. Limit what you do, and certainly limit what you say. Oh my gosh. Guys, you're going to have to be careful. Not everybody has the beautiful humanitarian heart that a lot of us have on this call. So, I'm excited about everything. I know you can tell, and I think I've gone over everything right now that I can think of. You're going to be tracked from your home to the appointment and back to your home, and then for an hour, and then you're dropped off the grid. So they want you to be secure, coming and going back. No incidents, no funny business, nothing except your security and a good, safe transaction. Okay? And I would just recommend everybody try your best to hold back your excitement, maybe until you get in your car. Don't do it out in the parking lot on your way to the car. Wait till you get home, or wait till and then don't stop at the local bar and buy everybody around. Don't be doing any of that stuff. No, stop it. And don't give $1,000 tips to waitresses and write something on the bill, which was one of the stupidest ideas I've ever heard. Okay, so don't do anything that's too out of the ordinary. Guys, it's going to take months, maybe a year, to work into this new paradigm of who you have become. Hopefully you keep all of the good qualities and everything that you ever were as you walk into your new self, your new life. I really believe that. And hopefully you leave behind any of the negativity and the bad programming and the bad times that you had and all the failures. You have to recognize your failure, but you have to come out of it. You come out of it and you learn from it. We're all learning every day from what we've lived in the past, and we're going to go on to a new life where we bring our best foot forward and our best energy, our best lives forward. That's what we're doing. So with that, I'm going to pray us out tonight. I'm going to thank everybody on my team, starting with Sue, Pastor Stephen, and Bob, for being here and being so faithful to us. Thank you, Big Call listeners all over the globe now. Thank you, Pink Roses, for coming back in one piece. Everything's good, and glad your home is fine. And thank you for transcribing the call so faithfully. It makes a big difference to people and is even being translated in various parts of the world so that people can read it in their own native language. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that from you, Pink Roses. Now, everybody have a wonderful night. Let's see what happens in the next day or so. I'm feeling very good about what has happened so far and what's taking place now. So, everybody, I'm going to pray us out, and then I'm going to say sayonara. Okay? So, Lord Jesus, I just thank you that you have selected us for this time, and that you've given us the opportunity to be part of something much greater than ourselves. Thank you that it's not about us, it's about other people. But we know that we have to have ourselves healthy, fit, and spiritually plugged in before we can make a difference in other people's lives. It has to start with us, and then we can go out and be everything that you want us to be to the rest of humanity. So I thank you that you're providing that for us, that you're providing for our needs now, that you're healing us and giving us this incredible vision to move forward. Thank you for this blessing. We pray this blessing in. We call it in. Let it come through, Lord Jesus. Bring it in. Use the people on this call to make a difference throughout this world. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Bob. And thank you, Sue and Pastor Stephen. Everybody, have a great night, and we'll see you on the flip side. Bob, when you're ready.